And hello and welcome to Hollywood Blockbusters. I am your host, Joe Hollywood. And once again, I'm joined by Imaginos Pete.
Hey, hey.
Andrew Walker.
Hello.
And joining us again in the podcast room is George Johnson. And welcome to our sequel to our favorite franchises. We're going to call this Two Hollywood, Two Blockbuster.
Yeah, we never had a sequel.
No, this is our first one.
Our first franchise.
Ironically, talking about franchise, here's the start of a franchise. So yeah, we like went as long as we could on the last episode and got about halfway through my list and said, okay, this is going to be a marathon. Let's pick it up another time.
Yeah, the booth was not happy with us.
Yeah. So we got that one out. Now, one of the things we focused on our previous episode, because the latest Jurassic World entry debuted in theaters a couple of weeks ago, a month or so ago, that sort of prompted our conversation last time, and we kind of went into a list of other franchises before we ran out of time. I want to start tonight's podcast with another blockbuster franchise entry, and this one would be from the Superman franchise. Have you gentlemen had a chance to see the new Superman movie?
Yes.
Got a couple of nods?
Yes, I have.
George?
Not yet. I'm waiting for
Not
the
yet.
family. The boy is in town, so we're going to go
All
see
right.
that.
So we'll try to avoid any spoilers. But obviously, the new Superman movie is part of the Superman franchise, which, not counting the TV version, sort of kicked off with Christopher Reeve back in 1978, I believe.
Yep.
Spawned 3 sequels, Superman 2, Superman 3, and then the other one with Nuclear Man.
The Quest
Superman
for
4.
Peace.
Quest
yes.
for Peace, that's the one. And so that's Christopher Reeve started in 4 films. Then they tried to reboot the franchise with Brandon Routh, I believe.
Yep.
And, you know, it's interesting. I saw somebody's list recently that said that was their favorite of all the Superman movies. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I had some issues with it. It did have some great moments where, like, when Superman tries to save this plane that's falling out of the sky, and that was like just a classic Superman moment that made you want to cheer. But then they did some really weird things in that movie, including creating a super baby, which really bugged me. Like, here they are wanting to reboot Superman, and they paint themselves into a corner by ending the first installment with a super baby. What are you doing? Don't do that.
To be fair, Joe, there are people that also think Godfather 3 was the best of the trilogy, so they exist out there.
I call them the contrarians.
Oh, boy.
You have a problem with Godfather 3?
Yes, I do.
I didn't think it was
George.
terrible, but it certainly wasn't as good as 1 and 2.
So let's see. So Superman Returns came out in 2006. Kevin Spacey played Lex Luthor. Brandon Routh, for whatever reason, never came back to reprise the role of Superman. He was sort of one and done. And then we went through another reboot of the character with Man of Steel, starring Henry Cavill, which was released in 2013. That was followed by these ensemble efforts, Dawn of Justice and Justice League. And then, of course, David Cornsweet, who I loved on a Netflix series called Hollywood. I really liked him in that series, and I'm like, God, he kind of looks a little like Henry Cavill, and little did I know he would step into that role. And so James Gunn takes over the reins of the Superman legacy from Zack Snyder, who I feel just portrayed no humor in the Henry Cavill movies. They were too dark, too serious. They wanted to be the anti-Marvel, where, you know, the Marvel movies have humor, and I think that's why people embrace them. There's dramatic moments, there's serious moments, there's gut-wrenching moments, but above all else, it's light and fun, and it's a good time at the movie theater, where these DC movies were just so damn depressing. And then when I saw the Snyder cut of Justice League, I think it was, I couldn't get through 10 minutes of it. I'm like, what do you think you're creating here? This is not, you know, some epic masterpiece. This is a comic book movie, and I turned it off. It was too serious in tone, dark visually and dark in tone, and it's like, these are comic book characters. Lighten up, man.
Right.
So I never really, I have no problem with Henry Cavill. I thought he was a fine Superman. I should note, because I'm obligated to do this, that I was an extra on Batman versus Superman, and got to see, and I got to see Henry Cavill in person. And I've told this story before on the podcast, that I was fooled by his Clark Kent disguise. I did not recognize him until someone pointed out and said, "That's Superman over there." And I'm like, "Who? The guy in the glasses?"
So it really does confound people
It
in
does
real
work.
life.
It really does. Yeah. If I took my glasses off right now, you'd be like, "Where'd Joe go?"
Oh my
Where'd he
gosh,
go?"
there's Superman right here.
So I did not care much. Let's go back to Man of Steel. There's this long, drawn-out fight sequence between him and Zod that destroys half of Metropolis. And then there's this flack, like, you guys killed a bunch of people. Like, what was the point of that? Superman's supposed to save lives, but in this long, drawn-out battle, they're leveling buildings that are presumably occupied by
Yes.
people. And then, spoiler alert, he snaps Zod's neck, which is not something Superman is supposed to do. He's not supposed to kill people. He's supposed to, let the authorities dole out justice. So I had a bunch of problems with the Snyderverse version of Superman. And one of the things I did appreciate about this new Superman release by James Gunn is he did bring back some of the humor. It's lighter in tone. It's fun. I will admit that it's fun.
He kept the murder, though.
Yeah, there's some
kept the
killing
murder.
going in there. Yeah, there's some darkness in this movie.
By Superman.
Yeah. But my complaints about the movie, without trying to spoil anything, Superman doesn't deserve the Peacemaker treatment. I enjoyed the Suicide Squad that had Peacemaker
Right.
in it, and who replaced Will Smith? Idris Elba replaced Will Smith. I enjoyed that Suicide Squad movie. I enjoyed the Peacemaker series, and I liked the tone and everything. Superman should be treated with more dignity, I think, than what they did in this movie. I mean, Superman, he's not the Superman that I kind of grew up with. Now, some might argue that's a good thing, that's a bad thing, because one of the criticisms of Superman is that he's invulnerable and too powerful, and there's no
Yes.
consequences. So that's why they came up with kryptonite, to give him a weakness, And so Gunn probably went in saying, okay, we need to make him more vulnerable. But I can't help but wonder if they went too far in that direction. And the other complaint that I have about the movie is there's a bunch of obscure characters, some of which I've never heard of. And so it's not so much a Superman movie as kind of a obscure characters from the Justice League movie, kind of along the lines of, Peacemaker, with a bunch of misfits all sort of coming together to
I
fight.
feel like they still have the same DC exec notes. Go ahead and build this franchise universe up real fast.
Yeah.
Again, Marvel spent a decade, and then DC with Snyder, they told Snyder, "Hey, do this, but do it faster." It's almost
Yeah.
like George Lucas directing faster and more intense.
Yeah.
What? No.
Yeah, it was sort of like a backdoor pilot to what you know is going to be the new Justice League movie
Right.
Yeah.
in a couple of years. So
Right. So there were things I liked about it. There were things I didn't like about it. I thought David Cornsweet was great as Superman. He's so darn likable that the movie could have just been a flaming pile of garbage, but somehow, like Superman, he would have emerged from it going, I kind of like this guy. So I really applaud David Cornsweet for his portrayal of Superman. I like the light tone. I like the humor. I just hope they continue to tweak it in the future. Now, this isn't necessarily a spoiler because it's common knowledge that there's going to be a Supergirl movie. So it's going to be interesting to see how this segues into Supergirl, which I think is next year. Is it 2026? Maybe. So we'll see where this franchise goes. I'm optimistic. I like the lighter tone, but I hope they tweak some things. So where do you want to see this franchise go?
I just want them to have a good story. That's my biggest thing is the story in all this. And they are always slavish to this thing of Lex Luthor always wanting property. I'm like, why? Let go that This is a super genius. Just let him do what he needs to do.
Yeah.
Stop this property stuff. Did it with Kevin Spacey. We did it with Gene Hackman. We can kind of skip some of these aspects and focus on the true evil genius aspect.
Isn't it the plot of Superman 1 where Lex Luthor was buying up West Coast property and he wanted to detonate a bomb to create a new West Coast?
And then Superman 2 is, what do you want? Australia. It's like, Jesus. Okay, man.
That's
Part
right.
1 was pretty funny because Lex Luthor was undone. And I think, wasn't it Gene Hackman?
Yeah, Gene Hackman
It was
was
bald
in-
Gene Hackman. He
yeah.
had like a toupee. And he's like, oh.
Yeah.
But he was undone by his assistant, whose mother, I think, lived in Pasadena or something like that. It was a great
And
line.
that's why
Oh,
she,
right.
yeah.
And so she clued him in on it and helped him out. Oh, he was chained to the box with
With
kryptonite. He's like, ah.
Yeah, he had a kryptonite
said,
necklace
I need
on
you
him.
to save my mother in Pasadena or something like that. It was just kind of squirrely but fun.
And they took elements of that too, with the girlfriend playing a role, and I was like, okay, sure. This one was a little bit more absurd because it's more modern and how so again, I'm trying not to do the spoiler thing, so I'm just
Right.
doing broad strokes. But there are so many elements that they kept that I was like, all right, okay. And
Yeah.
you know, the thing where he goes like, I'm going to take care of that reporter friend of yours. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I know who you're talking about. Oh, no. Oh, it's this. So you're the evil genius and you're falling for it too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, that's one thing I did appreciate about the new movie. And again, I don't hope this isn't considered a spoiler, but, you know, in all the earlier Superman movies, there's always that will they or won't they tension between Lois and Clark. And she's in love with Superman, but, you know, Clark is in love with her. And there's this love triangle, even though two corners of the triangle are the same guy. And in this movie, they're like, we're not going to mess with that. Let's get that out of the way pretty early on. And I did appreciate that because
Yeah.
I don't need to go through
like
the whole
that. I
love
like
triangle
the
thing.
tension. I haven't seen the movie, but I do like the tension. I think it's kind of fun. I mean, are you going to reveal yourself in the name of love?
Right.
I
And,
think
I think
yeah.
Spider-Man did that and didn't
Yeah.
go with Mary Jane,
Jane.
and I kind of liked that.
But
I
then they
think it kinda-
wiped the whole slate clean by erasing the memories of the entire population of the planet, which it was a bit of a stretch in Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is
But
weird.
George, they've taken to the next step. So instead of the origins of that tension, well, they weren't they like, okay, now that you have, what now? Now that you know each other, okay, it's like, I wonder if they will. They did.
Yeah.
Now you're with Superman. What are you going to do now?
Yeah.
A little complicated now. It's like, go get the groceries. Fine, I did. Now what do you want to do? let's talk about that chore list.
Funniest thing.
And it's like, oh, I see.
Now, I loved the very first Superman, but I hated the ending. I actually consider the ending one of the worst endings in the history of film, where, spoiler alert, Superman rotates the Earth backwards, which turns back time
It's-
so that there's no consequences for anything if Superman gets to turn back time. Now, again,
That is a problem.
I love bringing up Neil deGrasse Tyson. His eyes are rolling back in his head. Like, that's not how time travel works.
It's-
If you change the rotation of the planet, you're going to be causing a lot of harm. So I hated the ending of Superman 1. I loved the movie up until that point. My favorite entry of the entire series is Superman 2, which is flawed. It has some flaws to it. But to see Superman wrestling with giving up his identity for love and then having these superpowered beings come to the planet to try and take
And
it
they
over.
were so cool. I loved
Yeah,
it. I loved
they
it.
were great
They were
villains,
great villains,
and
yeah.
great twist at the end. And there's a lot of good in that movie. So, of the entire Superman franchise, which I have here is made up of 11 major films to date, number 2 is my favorite. It'll always be my favorite.
How many school teachers do you think got pissed off when kids in 78, 79 were like, no, Miss Johnson, that's not how time travel works. Superman did this. I hate that movie. I hate him so much. Writing Christopher
Actually,
Reeve.
you're wrong. That's
Yeah.
not how it goes.
Superman
You know you need a flux capacitor. What do you do?
Brian, why are you spinning around like that? If I do this, I won't be tardy.
I think the first Superman was pretty cool for me because I liked
Well, there
like
was
the
something
origin
new.
story.
Yeah.
Brando was a little much,
Yeah.
and but there was still some really cool parts about it. I really liked. I liked the fact that the parents, like when they come and find him, and the kid lifts up the car. And
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and he's like,
Ma and
3
Pa
or
Clark,
whatever.
Yeah.
I loved that. I always love. To me, the origin story is the best part of any superhero, and after that, it's just downhill.
But I do.
Like how they get their superpowers and how they find it out. The whole thing is Spider-Man, where he's like going, go web, like that, and it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that there's a good origin story
Yeah.
when I see the new Superman.
We won't get into that.
Yeah. For Marlon Brando, I love the stories that come out now. Is like, I'm the Godfather. You get one take. I'm going to read this
Michael
once.
Jordan, you get one take.
And Richard Donner's like this. Come on, Marlon.
Now where's my paycheck?
Yeah.
It'll be perfect.
Make me an offer I can't refuse. Andrew, you've been quiet over there. What's
Yeah.
your favorite Superman entry?
I've seen the very first one a long time ago. Don't remember it. Didn't see any of the Reeve sequels. This newest one will have to be my favorite. I did not like. I don't like anything Zack Snyder does. I think he's a terrible director. The visuals in his films are ugly.
Yeah.
Like they're designed by a 14-year-old kid who's just learning how to use After Effects or something. And these films are just sloppy, ugly.
Yeah.
Too much action for the sake of action.
Always the big baddie at the end, and that's why I always complain that today's films seem to be created by people who grew up on video games, because so many movies in the DC entry ends up with a hero fighting the big boss baddie at the end. Look at Wonder Woman. I really enjoyed Wonder Woman until she has to fight the big baddie at the end.
I agree.
And that almost ruined the entire film.
I agree.
For me.
That's 85% of that movie is really good.
Yeah.
But
and then you fight the big bad boss at the end, because that's how video games are
I love
played.
Sucker Punch, one of his movies. That thing was talking about when they went to the mental health facility.
I've never seen it. But.
Yeah, that was an entertaining movie.
I loved the casting choice of Rachel Brosnahan. I think she's great. The only thing I had seen her in before was Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Amazon.
Yeah.
She was great in that.
Wait, so she was Lois?
Yeah.
Okay,
Lois.
yeah, I wasn't sure what her name was.
Yep. And I guess I didn't care one way or the other when they showed the other three people, Green Lantern, Hawk Girl, and was
Mr. Terrific.
Mr. Terrific.
I kind of love Mr. Terrific, and if he got
Yeah.
his own spin-off, I'd be really happy with that. And I hope this doesn't sound, I don't know, racist, I guess, but he kind of reminded me of Black Dynamite. Do you ever see the movie Black Dynamite?
Yeah.
He kind of seemed like he was cut from the same cloth, because he had that sense of humor, that tough guy, no nonsense thing, and I loved his character. I want to see him get his own film.
Or even 2 seasons on HBO Max of a TV series.
Yeah.
And he was good. And then, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor is great.
Yeah, he was
Great
I thought he
actor.
did a nice job. I had no problem with him.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love the Kents. My own.
Boy, that was a different direction for the Kents.
I love the Kents. My only complaint was, as a kid who's had an accent before, whatever accent you have at around 11 years old is what you're going to be stuck with.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way things are. So, I was in India from the years of 4 to 11, and my brother's like, "You're going to have a fun time in middle school. If you
Trying to
if you
shed
keep
that
in-
accent.
Have you seen The Simpsons? You're going to enjoy that. You're going to get some jokes."
Yeah.
So, I saw Martha Kent, and I saw Jonathan Kent, and I look at David Cornstorm, I'm like, "Where's your drawl? Where's your Kansas drawl? Because your mom
Yeah.
has it, your pa has it.
Yeah.
You sound like you're from Rhode Island."
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The Kents were almost brought in as comedy relief. Like I was like, wow, that's a different take on the Kents. Like in other movies, they're sort of noble and heroic, and teaching life lessons
good
to
people.
Superman.
They're good
And they initially it was kind of jarring, like they were just sort of a couple of hicks from the Midwest. That kind of made me laugh. So George, did you say what your favorite Superman entry is?
I have to say that I really did like the first two, and
Yeah.
then when they introduced, was it Richard Pryor in number 3, or
I
when
think
was
so.
it?
Yeah,
we
that's-
went and saw that, super excited, and it was dirty and it was stupid, and I didn't like it. But
Yeah.
so it's got to be the first two. I want to go back to what you said. DC Comics, DC films have just been, in my opinion, missing the mark because of that.
You are not in the minority with that opinion.
Super dark side of things, and you go in there and it's like, well, I don't want, I want to be dazzled. I want to be excited. I want this guy to be, I want the upside of this, not the downside. And I got through, I don't remember which one it was, but Superman was fighting a bad guy, and it just kept going on and on and on. I don't remember who it was. It was a Batman, maybe? I can't remember. It was so bad, I had to just turn it off. I was tired. I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that it's gutsy to try and reboot now that we've had like Homelander in The Boys, and we've had Invincible, and we've had a ton of DC comics. And there's one with, and Hiddleston's got his own little thing, and he's got magical. I mean, everybody wants to be a version of Superman, and it's coming out with Superman after the last 20 years. I mean, my hat's off. If you just the attempt to me is pretty impressive. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm hoping that they brought in that Forrest Gump kind of a thing where there's funny, there's poignant, there's scary, there's war. It's just a damn good mix, Forrest Gump. And I look to movies like this. If it's going to be a summer blockbuster, I want a good cocktail. I want a good cookie recipe that's got all the right things in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting to hear you say, all these movies are trying to be Superman. I almost started laughing because we can be on the radio in 1940, and what you said would have been
Just
applicable.
as accurate.
Everyone wants to be Superman, the first comic book. Who's this Batman guy? They're all copying off of Superman, and that's. I'm like, wow, things have not changed in all those years.
They'd be like, Joe, you're from Alabama. Why are you speaking like that?
That's my transatlantic accent.
Yeah.
But I would say also that Superman's a harder one for me because he is so powerful that it's hard for me to like him as much as Iron Man or Batman.
Well, it's weird how they kept adding powers to Superman. Like when you go back to the original
That's right, he
comics,
just
he
jumped.
couldn't fly. He
just
could
jumped.
leap
Leaped
tall
over
buildings. And
still
he had super strength because of the sun, the yellow sun and stuff. And over time, they're giving him laser vision. Like, how does being exposed to the yellow sun give you laser vision and freezing breath? Or being able to rip your super S off your chest like it's cellophane and covering, and it just got ridiculous. Like how
Or flying,
Or
or
imagine-
invisibility, or seeing through things, like
or
with your
going
X-ray
into
vision.
space. Like you're from a different planet that had a different color sun. That doesn't give you the ability to breathe in space. How are these people existing in space? It drives me nuts.
They have to. If we're gonna go down this rabbit hole,
They still kind of do that.
I
though.
got sick of the fact that you'd have like Superman, and he would pick up a card, he'd be like, and he'd throw it over his head, and then and then the next day he's got to lift up a tank, same thing, and he throws it over his head. And then the next day he's presented with a building that he has to throw, and he gets up, and it's like, wait a minute, the building was infinitely heavier than the VW that you threw, and yet you still grunted it out. And then in later on, you see I can't remember what it was, but it was Super Friends, where Saturday morning, and like Superman's way more powerful because you see him do these things like where he chops like a half of the moon off, or I don't know, all these different things.
He's moving planets.
He's moving planets and doing all this other stuff, and I'm like, why do we need Wonder Woman? Why do we need anybody else if he's that powerful? When it's an what do you call that? When it's an inconsistency in terms of their powers, it's a non. You can't have him grunt at one thing.
Yeah. Do you know when the early teaser trailers released, fans were complaining because there's a scene when the crowd sort of turns on Superman and someone throws something and it hits Superman in the back of the head. And in the early trailers, his head like goes forward, getting hit from like a beer can or something. And people are like, Superman wouldn't react to getting hit in the head with a beer can. So they had to sort of fix that in post. Because it's like, you don't want him to be able to lift a tank, but a beer can, he goes, ow, man, stop that.
Because Cornsted reacted to that because I think when they throw it, the first time it hit, you see him kind of do this. Like his eyes spins. I'm like, did you feel that? I mean, I guess you could.
I have seen that.
Was that emotionally disturbing to you? That's why you flinched? It was an emotional, like, oh, I can't believe they hate me.
You know what? I'm going to throw this out at you guys because this was a group text that I just had. How does Superman shave? Because, so you would think, if he can, if bullets bounce off of him, what element, what materials on Earth would allow him to trim his hair?
It's a kryptonite coating on the blade that's
so
not
you
strong
say
enough.
kryptonite.
They addressed this. I used to ask Mark this question. My brother told me.
I have no idea.
He has like a mirror and he uses heat vision to reflect off and shave it. It's like pinpoint.
Ding, 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 ding.
He was like, zzz, zzz, and he like, Clock, are you shaving again? What makes you say that? Because I could smell burnt hair.
Yeah. So he shaves himself with his laser vision because the yellow sun gives him that ability to do that.
What was this the first film where Superman bleeds?
I would think
I couldn't
so,
remember
yeah.
if
and
that happened.
unless you count when he gave up his powers in Superman 2, he got his butt kicked by that guy in
That's
the diner.
true. In the
But
diner,
so he bled as a depowered Clark Kent, but then when he regains his powers, there's no.
I
real
shed a
way
bitter
to-
tear in the when he. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But
So,
even
that's a good
in
question.
Superman 2, the one that everyone enjoys, there's always inconsistencies because when the bad guys land and she finds a snake and picks it up and it bites her and she reacts to him like, you felt that? It's a snake.
Yeah, yeah.
Would she just laugh it off?
Yeah, she's like, oh, and then she like heat visions.
You're
him.
like, wow, you're a
I'm like,
wuss.
you're already superpower. You flew
No,
down.
I hate those inconsistencies. Anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
beat that dead horse into the ground.
Well, let's stick in the DC realm. I don't believe we touched on this in the last episode, but let's move on to Batman. Obviously, from the comics, there were some serials, black and white serials that they would show before films in the 40s or whatever. But of course, most people began their love of Batman in 1966 with Adam West and Burt Ward. Now, you might say, well, that was a TV show, that doesn't count. But they did do a theatrical release in 1966 where Batman and Robin faced the four main villains, Penguin, Riddler, Joker, and Catwoman. Lee Merriweather stepped in as Catwoman just for that one film. In that film, they introduced the Bat Boat, the Bat Copter, the Bat Cycle, which they did that deliberately because they had a big budget to work with, which then they used subsequently on the TV series. So,
and a can of shark repellent.
oh man, yeah,
Wait,
yeah,
they-
definitely.
They really did have a can of shark repellent.
Yeah,
Well,
there's a
wait,
shark.
Let me correct you. It's called Bat Shark Repellent. So.
Or is it shark bat repellent?
Do you have
That's for
that
Shark
at home?
Man.
Or?
I did hold it in my hands once. I have a friend who has a replica of the Bat Boat from the TV series, and we went for a cruise on a lake, and he happened to have a can of Bat Shark Repellent in the boat.
And if there's ever a Sharknado,
See, and that, see,
a
and that,
bat NATO.
oh my god, and see, and that tells you something. George, you're talking about the tone of DC is always kind of dark. They either get it's dark or they miss the mark. They go full on Adam West.
Yeah,
no. And they're
exactly.
dancing. I'm like, this is. Are you sure your parents were murdered? This is a very. I'm actually more concerned about this response.
Yeah.
I understand the cycle. What is this?
Oh, and that's what makes this intriguing. So those of us who grew up watching Batman in syndication and reruns, coming home from elementary school, I watched Batman in reruns on like Channel 50 or whatever. People sort of were used to that light, campy tone, which was very deliberate in that 66 movie and TV series. So then when they wanted to relaunch Batman in 1989, they bring in Tim Burton, cast Michael Keaton, and give it it still has sort of a light tone, but visually it's darker. The black Batsuit, the black Batmobile, everything's black and
And
dark
it still
and black.
kills. It kills people.
Oh yeah. So
I really liked that version, by the way.
and
I really liked that. I thought
it's
that was
in my greatest movie list. You have to imagine the rollout for Batman 1989, the merchandising, the anticipation that built over a long period of time, the logo reveal, and to where when they had the premiere, that was the lead story on the news. You know, the new Batman movie had its premiere at Ground's
Jack
Chinese
Nicholson
Theater or
in it.
whatever. Yeah, it was crazy, and Jack Nicholson's Joker almost overshadows Batman
Yes.
in this movie
He's really good.
because people were like, I don't know about Michael Keaton as Batman, but when they were like Jack Nicholson as a Joker, you're like, I'm intrigued.
Yep.
So he was so over the top, but he was great. So 1989 Batman was just a phenomenon. It was really incredible.
Yeah.
And then just a few years later, they followed up with Batman Returns, which was a disappointment on a lot of levels. I think they were trying to, they brought in Catwoman and the Penguin, and then what's his name?
Christopher Walken.
Christopher Walken
Max
plays
Schreck.
Max Schreck. So now
Yeah.
we got multiple villains, and it started to get to be a little too cluttered. Even though I like the aspect of Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle kind of falling in love out of costume, but then being like mortal enemies in costume. I'm like, that's really intriguing. But then they cluttered it up with all these other storylines. They should have just
The
just
Shrek part
split it
was
down.
the
Yeah.
that was the awkward part because they could have Cobblepot was a wealthy person. He wasn't like some deranged sewer monster
Yeah.
that they portrayed him out to be.
Yeah.
He had a mutation that they didn't want to shun him, and then he said, "I'll show you. I'm going to become a social, one of the elite."
Yeah.
You'll all regret it.
So after Batman Returns, Michael Keaton was like, I'm out. And so they go all in on Batman Forever.
Ooh,
Crazy. Was it Schumacher? Did
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
one?
that began the.
Just the
Is that the one with
colorful
Schwarzenegger?
jazz.
no,
No,
that
that
was the
came
next
later.
one after that.
This was
Oh,
Val
that was
Kilmer as
horrific.
Batman,
Val Kilmer was
Jim
not
Carrey
bad,
as
actually.
Riddler, and
Tommy
Tommy
Lee.
Lee Jones, who was trying to outdo Nicholson as Two-Face. And it was the movie so loud. Like, I just watched it recently, and I enjoyed it to a
Loud?
certain extent. It's so loud, everyone's screaming. Jim Carrey is, you know how he is. He's so over the top
Sure.
as the Riddler. Instead of trying to balance that with a more subdued Two-Face, it's like Tommy Lee Jones is trying to outdo Jim Carrey. So they're both so loud.
and
just
they're both trying to outdo Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
Like Jim
And-
Carrey was
Oh.
leaning more towards like a Joker performance than a Riddler.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I saw it when it came out. So
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I don't remember
and then
really
they
much of
introduce
anything.
Robin, and it's just there's a lot going on, and the Batmobile becomes this, you know, impractical Batmobile that's just more of a work of art than something.
The two best parts about that movie: Nicole Kidman and Seal.
And
Yeah.
who?
And Seal, "Kiss from a Rose." Like the movie that song, I'm like, that man knows how to sing. I don't know the rest about the rest of this. And that's a weird choice for this movie, but oh well.
Are you dissing Prince and Batman 1989?
You know,
Um,
one thing that really ticks me off is what you touched on, and that is that they bring in Robin. I'm kind of rooting for a Robin only like post Batman era where Batman dies.
Now, didn't you
And
mention that
Robin-
you I think you said in a
Mhm.
text that you wanted to see a fourth Christopher Nolan movie that introduces
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
as
Joseph
Robin.
Gordon-Levitt. That
Because
got me
they
thinking. That's
teased
the text
that
we had. Yes.
in part 3,
Yeah.
The Dark Knight
And it
Rises,
never
and we
happened.
never got a payout,
Ah.
payoff on that.
Well, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is still alive.
Yeah,
Last
yeah.
time I checked.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So there's still
but-
time.
But
He's
you
not
know,
young anymore,
since
though.
The Dark Knight Rises, and hold on before
Yeah,
we get
sorry.
into that. The Nolan trilogy, which after the failure of Batman and Robin, which I consider one of the worst movies ever made, I
Correct.
felt physically nauseous sitting in a theater watching that movie. That's how much I hated Batman and Robin.
Yes.
So it was due for a reboot. You know, Schwarzenegger, every line was a bad pun.
Yeah.
Please, everybody chill. Okay, we get it, man.
Hardy
Holy
har.
cow.
Yeah.
So it took a much needed sabbatical until Nolan comes in and does Batman Begins, which I enjoyed, but it took like an hour to get Bruce Wayne into costume.
I
It's like, can we
loved that.
speed it
I
up a little
loved
bit?
that. I loved. I
You,
loved the
Mr.
backstory.
Origin story.
That could have just been the whole thing. Like
Yeah.
Riles Ghul or whatever his name is.
Yeah,
Played
and that
by,
was interesting to kick off that Nolan series, to bring in an obscure villain that most mainstream audience people had no idea who Ra's al Ghul was. You had to be a comic
I'm
book
glad
fan.
because I'd already seen the host of villains that Batman's supposed to have, and to not have that was refreshing. Like, okay, who's gonna play Joker?
Yeah.
And we didn't have that, and I actually really liked that because it's like, no, we're not gonna go campy and hokey. We're gonna go.
Yeah, he blended Scarecrow, Ra's al Ghul, and
Yeah, that's right. They
well,
did bring in Scarecrow.
and
yeah.
one of the mob bosses in there.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was usually-
yeah. Carmine
Falcone.
Falcone.
Yeah, Falcone. Yeah.
That's right.
So I enjoyed Batman Begins. I loved. Jeez, why
Dark
am
Knight
I?
Rises.
Who played Batman?
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale, yeah.
Golly, I just can't recall names. Christian Bale, I thought was fantastic as Bruce Wayne / Batman.
Yeah.
Even though it almost became comical when he would lower his voice and become Batman.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
part was always
And-
we were like, oh dear.
And I remember someone bringing this up, and I hope this doesn't ruin the movie for you, but there's a moment where, you know how Batman would be talking to Commissioner Gordon, and then Batman would disappear, and Commissioner Gordon's talking to himself. Well, then they switch it where Batman gets abandoned, and while he's standing there all by himself, he's like, oh, now I know how it feels. It's like you're by yourself while you're still doing the voice. Like, you're going to do that all by yourself. So that was kind of a weird thing. But anyways, so I enjoyed Batman Begins, but let's talk about The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight was one of the most epic, magnificent works of art I've ever seen in my
Yes.
life.
Yeah.
The commentary on good and evil and what makes a good person evil and what pushes somebody over the line, and it's not all clear cut. There's not hard edges. I just thought the commentary on good and evil made this movie transcend a comic book movie. Not only do I think it's the greatest comic book movie ever made, I think it's one of the greatest movies ever made. And then, just like, the skepticism that Michael Keaton faced stepping in as Batman, when they announced Heath Ledger as the Joker, people were like, oh, come on, Brokeback Mountain guy.
Mhm.
Holy crap, did he create an iconic character?
They did a great job in an era when, there weren't as many leaks, but they still kept everything under wraps. The only time you got what he would be like was in that one of the best teasers I've ever seen, where it was just the Batman symbol and lights hitting it, and it was just clips of audio. It's like, you rattled them first, sir. In their desperation, they turned to a man they didn't understand.
Those are the best trailers where they don't screw
There's no visuals.
everything up.
And
I hate trailers.
And you see the Batman symbol breaking against this. Is like, and
Nice.
they turn to a man, and some men just want to watch the world burn, and then you hear his like, tonight people will die, and I'm like, that's the first experience of Heath Ledger, I'm a man of my word, and he does the laugh, and at that point, like, this movie's gonna be phenomenal. I didn't even see how he looked. I just heard the tone.
Yeah.
Like, that's Heath Ledger
So
saying that?
unique,
And then-
so
yeah.
amazing. Not campy, goofy Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
That was a
And he-
Though I
psychopath.
do love Jim
Yeah.
Carrey for other things.
Yeah.
But that was a psychopath.
Yeah. Yeah, just only wants to create anarchy. And I love the behind-the-scenes stories where he wasn't happy with the makeup artist applying makeup to his face. And he's like, this guy would apply his own makeup, and he did. And it's so perfect. The black, raccoon eyes and
the scars.
Yeah. You want to know how I got these scars? And he keeps
And
changing the story.
And the makeup is smeared.
Yeah.
And it gets
And-
ruined.
yeah.
And there's just so many good things. But I also love the two ships.
Yeah.
With the-
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Where does
When
this come through?
Tiny Lister takes that detonator and he goes, I'm going to do what we should have did 30 years
Yes.
ago. I got goosebumps thinking
I
about it.
did
That
too.
was such a twist, and again, a statement on good and evil.
Right.
It was
Yes.
just incredible.
That's 100% Chris Nolan, and he always poses in his movies these more big morality
Yeah.
questions. And then I'm sitting in the theater watching this. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you felt it.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then to watch, Harvey Dent's journey into Two-Face, and this easily could have been a cluttered mess, but I thought all the characters were handled. They were all given their time to shine, and we got to watch their journeys and Harvey Dent transforming into Two-Face, and it was just magnificent. It was a work of art, and it's what I feel movies today are lacking to a certain extent. Like I was so blown away by this movie. I walked out of that theater a changed man. Like I felt like a different person having watched The Dark
And there's
Knight.
a line that the Joker says, it's like, I feel like we'll be sharing a cell together, because they're both psychotic.
Yeah,
Batman
yeah.
and the Joker. They're two sides of the same coin. It's like, you
Yeah.
dress up as a bat. That's why that interrogation scene he loves is like, don't talk like them.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
He's like, you complete me. I'm like, holy, it's a sick relationship.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, I got to interview Anthony Michael Hall, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but he played the news reporter in The Dark Knight.
Yes, he did.
And when I interviewed him, I'm like, did you and Heath Ledger ever share a moment where he was in the costume and the makeup? And he said, yeah, when he was being held hostage, the news anchor was, and I think he was being suspended upside down. He's like, Heath was in that scene with him, even though it was kind of shot with like a camcorder. But I'm like, my God, Anthony Michael Hall got to see Heath Ledger in costume, in character, portraying that character. I'm like, I would have loved to have seen him filming
Through your
those
eyes.
scenes because it was
Yeah.
so iconic. So, yeah, just what an amazing movie. So then they follow up with The Dark Knight Rises, which I thought was a kind of a disappointing way to close out the trilogy, because where we went to this, incredible, analyzation of good and evil, part 3 is, someone's got a nuclear bomb and Batman has to stop
And
him. I'm
Batman
like,
has arthritis.
yeah. And
Early onset arthritis.
I was a little...
And gets his back broken.
Yeah.
Wasn't that in the first one? That was. Oh no, you're right.
Yeah,
You
it
got
was.
Bane was the third one. You're absolutely right.
And the way they fixed his back, I'm like, look, I'm not a practicing doctor, but that seems like the weirdest way to fix a broken back.
I did like 3. It was not 2, and it wasn't 1. It's the least favorite of the
Yeah.
3 of them. But I still
Yeah.
found it to be not as terrible as some of the DC.
No, I
crap.
don't think it's terrible
No.
by any means. I just expected, you know, with the greatness of The Dark Knight, I expected something on
You gotta
par
stick the
with that.
landing.
And my criticism of the movie, and this isn't really a criticism, but it was a James Bond flick. You know, James Bond has to stop the nuclear bomb wielding maniac, and that's kind of what The Dark Knight Rises was.
It's tough to have stakes when you have a 6-month time bomb. I'm like, all right, fellas, you know, we got this, before Thanksgiving, let's get this thing taken care of.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this bomb's not going to go off for 6 months. I'm like, what, why? You got to stick that landing. You know, if I go from New York to London, I always tell Mark this. You know, just make sure the landing gears come out. This one, the landing gears didn't come out. The plane landed. And we're like, Chris, what happened?
And one problem I have with The Dark Knight Rises, it would have been a better movie if they would have left the ending ambiguous. Where
rather than
Batman,
filling it,
Batman flies the
Yes.
bomb out, and you see it detonate, and you're like, did he just sacrifice himself to save the people of Gotham? And then they tack on him eating food in the French Riviera or something.
They even could have done something like that just so Michael Caine's face reacting. And you're like, what was? It's almost like the top in Inception. Did it fall or did it not?
Right.
Just don't show Christian Bale. Just see him looking up and then go, smile. You'd be like, oh, what's he smiling at?
I think it would have been great to just end on him exploding.
I agree.
That was the Iron Giant, and every time.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, you
So
didn't have
good.
to go any further than that.
Of course,
And-
the Iron Giant did have a part where the pieces are starting to come
start
back together,
flying back. Yeah.
which I really did like. But there was
Yeah,
kind of a Christ-like, sacrifice yourself for the world type of thing,
Yeah.
which I really liked.
Yeah, I think it should have ended.
I
with
got
that.
one comment, and that is, I went to school with Aaron Eckhart at Brigham Young University, and we were in the same. We were in the same fraternity
nice.
together, and I talked to him a number of times about things, and we weren't friends. I don't know that he'd recognize me, but it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's cool. Hey, you're dropping names like me.
Yeah.
You're one
Oh,
of us.
I got one to your 500.
I came across this on Twitter the other day. Someone said, "Batman Begins is about fear. The Dark Knight is about chaos, and The Dark Knight Rises is about pain as their themes." And I thought
Interesting.
that was pretty.
Yeah,
nice.
there's a lot of
Breaking
pain.
it down, yeah.
There's a lot. There's definitely a lot of pain in that Dark Knight Rises.
The other thing that we would be remiss to talk about is, I think, and I know that you're going to very much going to disagree with me, and I just saw, the Batmobiles of days of old, I thought were cool when I was a kid. And as I got older, I thought, who's going to really have something that has these cute little curly cues and all that?
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I'm not really terribly interested in the Batmobile. But when the Tumbler came out
Yeah.
and they painted it different,
It was
and he's
practical,
in that badass mofo, I was like, it was practical, and they had two of them, and I just, every time I looked at that, it became its own.
I
It
love
was
the
so
line
cool.
when he takes it for a test drive. He's like, "Oh, what's that?" And Lucius is like, you wouldn't be interested in the Tumbler."
Yes.
And he takes him for a spin, and they cut to Bruce Wayne, and he goes, "Does it come in black?" I love that line. And it was a great Batmobile because it was something that, Army surplus. It was practical. It made sense. It had its, stealth version. It wasn't this
How
flashy
did you feel about
flamboyant.
it when it became the motorcycle?
Well, it was a bit of a stretch when he.
I had a
when
bit
it-
of a stretch
yeah,
too.
That was kind of an.
I did
escape,
like it, but
yeah.
and that it would have been better if that was a separate thing that didn't come out of that.
Yeah.
But it was so cool to see that. I mean, the tire on the back end of that was like 2 feet wide. You're like, what are you doing? It's so fun to see it. But it was way cooler than the old ones, in my opinion.
Now, people hate change, and I remember when they first revealed that image of the Tumbler, I'm like, is that a lawnmower? What is that? But then when you see it in action in the film, you're like, this is awesome.
This is
Although,
awesome.
you figured there's some people like in the factory that built it, and they're like, "Hey, Frank, are you looking at that? Did we work on that in like Wisconsin? Yeah,
Exactly. It's not something that you can, unless they like assassinated all the people that worked on
It's
it.
like
or
Lockheed
something.
Martin. You're like, hey, look at that. That's weird.
Yeah. I don't get jealous too much, but a friend of mine was in L.A., and he sends me some pictures that he took out of his hotel window. He's like, hey, look at what's going on the street. They were filming The Dark Knight Rises, and I see these camouflage color tumblers going up and down the street, and I'm like, you son of a bitch. I should be seeing that. And he's witnessing the filming of Batman.
That was it in Pittsburgh or?
It was in L.A. It was
okay.
outside his hotel in L.A.
Right,
yeah.
because there had to be parts of it that should have been done in Detroit, but
Yeah.
we lost the film incentives, and so they went to Pittsburgh and L.A. and a few other places.
Well, that's a good transition now, because when the DC universe kicked off, they recast Batman with Ben Affleck, and some of that was filmed here in Detroit during the incentives. I got to be an extra in Batman versus Superman. I'm curious what you guys think of Ben Affleck as Superman. I thought, you don't normally want to hire an actor with baggage to play Superman. You kind of
Batman.
Or out to play Batman, yeah. And I don't know. At first, I was like, I don't know about Ben Affleck. I thought he did an okay job, but I didn't think there's anything special, anything memorable about his portrayal.
I thought he did a
of
great
Batman.
job. I thought he played that broken, enraged, full-blown psycho. Like he sees, and then he sees this dude come around who has no set of consequences. Like, yeah, you'll have a 40-minute fight in a populated area. You are a menace.
Yeah.
I don't care what how you feel.
Since you brought it up, one of the worst movie moments of all time, and this kind of goes back to our joke about somehow Palpatine has returned, is when they're beating the crap out of each other, and he's like, "We got to save Martha," and he's like, "Your mom's name Martha too? Let's unite." It's like, really?
That was like a Step Brothers moment. Oh, did we just become best friends? Yep. And I was like, what,
The
are you
fact
kidding
that
me?
they're, and I have never even really thought about their moms having the same first name, but that was the catalyst for them to join forces. And I'm like, oh, that's a bit of a stretch, but that fight scene, that long drawn out fight scene, was shot at the train
Yeah,
station
I was just
before
gonna
they
say that, yeah.
renovated it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really care much for his Batman. It just seemed like, with his acting, it seemed like he didn't want to be there at all.
Yeah,
Like he was not putting. I didn't feel like he put any effort into it.
I agree.
But I mean, at the same time, in his real life, he was going through some hard stuff. So it's like
Yeah.
they could have cast better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
George,
that was the
I'm
trade
sorry.
off. No, that was the trade off. You do Batman, you can make your movies.
Yeah, 'cause
One,
Yeah.
he will fund your movies for that.
He
other
wanted
stuff.
to have his own
The accountant.
solo
Yeah.
Batman.
Yeah. Yeah. So your thoughts on Ben Affleck? Batman?
I wasn't a terribly big fan of. We're going to talk about Pattinson.
Yeah, that was going to be next. So we
I wasn't a big fan of him. I don't. There's what you said is dead on. I love seeing movies where they cast somebody who's pretty unknown. That was the way with Lord of the Rings. That was way I didn't know anybody in Lord of the Rings except for Sean
Astin from Goonies.
Sean Bean. No, Sean Bean was.
Sean Bean?
No,
wasn't
not,
he?
No, not Sean. I know I was talking about Goonies. What's his name? Sean
Astin.
Sean Astin, who plays
Astin.
Samwise.
Acid. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But everybody else I hadn't recognized before, and they really
Right.
became the part. I've seen Ben Affleck in too many other things that
I agree.
It just kind of ruined it for
That's
me.
why I said I thought he brought baggage to the role.
Anyway, but but Pattinson, you're going to talk about him next.
Yeah, so they after the DC thing, they reboot with a younger Batman who they get back, and this is one thing I appreciate about the film. He's called the dark. What is it? The detective.
Yeah.
He's a detective at his roots, and so in the Pattinson version of the Batman, they show his sleuthing skills, his detective skills, which I really enjoyed. I like seeing a younger Bruce Wayne, younger Batman who's maybe a little bit more reckless. And people criticized his Batmobile, but I'm like, in reality, if you take a young guy who has money, he's going to kind of make
A
this
muscle car.
take
Yeah.
a Mustang or a Camaro and kind of strip parts off of it.
Yeah.
And that's what it looked like. It looked like a young guy building his rat rod.
I mean, you'd been pissed off if they put a couple of like fins on a hybrid.
Yeah.
on a
Right,
Prius. You'd be
right.
Like,
On a
the Prius.
hybrid.
I'm trying to save gas money.
Yeah.
So I liked everything about the Pattinson version. The only thing I'm disappointed with is why are we waiting so long for a sequel? It's been years.
They just now completed a screenplay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's probably not going to come out till.
But it's
2
not
years.
related to the Gunn's
No.
DCU, so that's another thing. So that's why, and so Gunn is looking for another Batman. So they're going to have two
Yes.
Batmans in the theaters
Yes.
at two different
Right.
times.
What?
and I was really hoping when in the Superman movie when they were shooting scenes in the Justice Hall or Hall of Justice, I was really hoping for a Batman cameo and felt like we missed an opportunity for that. But I'm sure he'll be showing up at some point.
Well, because they're piecing this together. Like the train's moving, Gunn is putting tracks down as this is coming along, which I don't think is, say what you want about the tone of the movie and everything. It's not fair to him.
Mhm.
Again, I this is what I hate about DC. You can't get Marvel. You didn't invest the time, and every time you invest, it's almost like the Detroit Lions. Every time there's a rebuild, you yank the plug on something, and then we rebuild again.
Oh.
We rebuild again, and we rebuild again. So every time you're getting, I don't like the way this is going. Well, you got to give it time. Or leave the man alone, let him do his vision.
Or
and
you
then,
need a plan. Like, I
Yeah.
felt like Marvel had this 10-year plan laid out
Yeah.
where DC seemed to be making things up as they went along. And then, like you said, scrap things and do things differently.
because now you're going to have Robert Pattinson's Batman, and then you're going to have whoever you're going to cast for the James Gunn Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Because
It
there's
seems
no way you're going to have
ridiculous.
that universe. He's like, well, I'm just not going to have Batman in this universe. Well, good luck with that, James. You're not going to leave one of the two pillars out. If I put the Superman icon silhouette, like the Indiana Jones silhouette, you know what that is. If I put the Batman silhouette, you can't just say, well, he's not going to exist anymore.
Yeah. Now, George, you seem to be itching to talk about Robert Pattinson's Batman. What were your thoughts on that movie
I
so
liked
far?
it, but it wasn't as good as I like. I do think that there needs to be day if there's night, and there's a whole lot of night in there and very little day.
Yeah.
And after a while, it just begins to look like, if there's too much night, it begins to look like too much green screen to me. And I start to look at it and go, well, all right, it's a lot of CGI and so forth. The other thing I had was I don't think Robert Pattinson did not feel as I mixed feelings because his character was both vulnerable, and I don't like that because I didn't want Batman to be vulnerable because it looked like he actually took some pretty hard hits, at some points.
Yeah.
And yet I liked it, but it became like, okay, wait a minute. In my head, Batman can take a lot of punches and all that kind of thing from Christian Bale version. But in that movie, it wasn't clear to me if he was really getting hurt, and and I did like the idea that he could get hurt, and so it became a completely different Batman, and that's how I felt about the James Bond. That it was more realistic, more gritty, and more like.
When
You
Daniel
don't
Craig took
hit
over.
somebody 75 times in the head and have them get up and be like, say something cutesy.
Yeah.
You reel back, and so I felt pretty good. I also like who's it? Is it the girl's name? She's what's his
Zoe
name?
Kravitz?
It's Kravitz, yeah. I
Oh,
liked
it's
her in it,
Catwoman, yeah.
but it was kind of a weird relationship, and I wish they had fleshed that out a little bit more. But
Yeah.
that's my 2 cents.
I love that. George brought up a good point. It was that when you saw the Batman with Robert Pattinson, he's young, he's reckless. You see the rage, like when he's just beating the guys. Like, who are you? I'm like, dude, you're wearing a Joker makeup. I think we already know what's going on here. And so he does that. But anytime you see him as Bruce Wayne, he has this gray, sallow skin.
Yeah,
hair
emo. He kind of has
emo.
the emo
And I'm
look,
like,
yeah.
unlike Christian Bale, who
Yeah.
said I love that when Katie Holmes was playing his love interest,
Yes.
she's like, "This is your mask," and she touched his face, like Bruce Wayne's face, like, "This is your mask now."
Right.
The man I loved is gone. He never came back.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was
Great line.
And I love that. I said, "Yeah, that's true. That's the
Yes.
thing. This man, in his pain, went down the psychotic spiral and came back like this. That he's willing to jump around at night and fight psychos. Everything be damned." Robert Pattinson's like, he shows up for that one funeral scene. He's like, "Hey, everybody." I'm like, "Hey, are you okay? You seem like you have like
It was a little
jaundice or
bit of a
something. Like, what's
downer,
going
yeah.
on?" with you?"
Jaundice is a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one eerie thing that happened to me personally is way back in 2002, I did a short film where I play a guy who wins the lottery and tries to become Batman. And when he hears a scream, he arrives in an alley and sees a woman surrounded by a gang of thugs wearing masks and stuff, and he comes in and breaks it up. And the leader of the gang of thugs turns toward my Batman character and says, "Well, what are you supposed to be?" Let's fast forward to the Batman, and I'm watching the trailer, and there's a gang of thugs that have this Asian guy surrounded. Batman walks up. The lead thug turns to Batman and says, "Well, what the hell are you supposed to be?" It was almost identical to the scene in my short film, which was done 20 years earlier, and I'm sure it was a coincidence. I'm not accusing anything of anybody, but that was eerie to see that scene in my
That
film
must have
play
been pretty
out.
cool for you.
That was wild.
But in the movie, that also I was like, wait, why would you say that? You just gave me this voiceover monologue, like, they now know that I stalked the night. I'm like, and the Joker was already in Arkham Asylum because that apparently already happened.
Yeah.
I mean, they put that on the cutting room floor. They only kind of mention on it. You guys are all walking around as if you're the Joker acolytes. He put your boss in Arkham. What do you mean, who is this guy? That's the guy.
Yeah.
You're wearing
Yeah,
the
what are
smiley
you
face.
supposed to
The guy that you're idolizing, that's the crazy psycho that did it.
All right. Well, we spent almost an hour talking about the DC franchise. Let's change gears a little bit. I'm trying to remember what we talked about last time, what we didn't talk about. Let's talk about the Star Trek franchise. Star Trek is made up of 13 movies. Of course, we had the TV series that
Right.
only lasted, I think, 2 or 3 years. Started in '66, wasn't a huge smash. It was iconic
Ahead
and
of its
developed
time.
a following,
Yeah.
but after just a couple of seasons, it got canceled. And then with the success of a little movie called Star Wars, they're like, Paramount's like, let's dust off this Star Trek franchise. But instead, in 1979, of giving us this action flick with space battles, they give us some
Philosophical.
philosophical thing about what is God or something. I don't know. And they create the motion picture in 1979. Now, obviously, it was a hit, and there are people who enjoy it. I enjoyed it to a certain extent. But it was, it had that nostalgic factor of seeing all those original actors from the TV series on the big screen,
Right.
getting cast in those roles, seeing the new version of the Enterprise. So it was a, it was a lackluster answer to Star Wars, but it had potential and it was intriguing. Then Paramount follows it up with The Wrath of Khan in 1982, which
Yeah.
was perfection.
Yeah.
Bringing back the rival Khan, giving Kirk a nemesis.
Ricardo Montalban is awesome.
Oh, God. And giving us space battles. And, people used to speculate whether or not Ricardo Montalban wore like a prosthetic chest piece. And on talk shows, he would insist that was my chest. I worked out, and I don't disbelieve him. And so the Wrath of Khan is what they should have given us right out of the gate to
Yes.
answer to Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then over the course of the next several films, there's this thing where the even numbered films people loved and did well at the box office. The odd numbered films weren't necessarily critically acclaimed and didn't do well at the box office. And it's weird how that alternated with each movie. It would go down and then up and down and then up. So after Wrath of Khan, we had Search for Spock because, spoiler alert, he died in The Wrath of Khan. That was 1984. Then one of my personal favorites, The Voyage Home,
Yes.
1986, with the time travel element coming back to modern day 86 Earth. That was a lot of fun. What was it? Double dumbass to you coming out of Kirk's mouth.
Is it time for another colorful metaphor? No.
It was just great. And then The Final Frontier in 89, which was directed by William Shatner. Leonard Nimoy had already started directing films by this point. Undiscovered Country in 1991. Then they had introduced, The Next Generation on television, which I absolutely loved. I was just riveted. And so they made their transition to the big screen with Generations, where it was sort of a crossover in 1994.
Yeah.
Followed by First Contact, which is one of my favorite movies in the
Yeah.
entire series, which gave us The Bored Queen, which was awesome, 1996. Followed by Insurrection in 98, Nemesis
Those
in
were
2002.
so cool.
Yeah.
They weren't quite the very, very best of them, but they
Yeah.
were all really pretty good, and they were
Yeah.
family entertainment. They were a lot of fun. I remember we went with a whole bunch of people in our family. Those were just they all hit pretty high on I liked them.
Yeah. I don't think any of them were bad. It was just weird how they would sort of peak and valley with.
I mean, after First Contact, I was like, we're kind of watering this down a little bit here, guys. I mean,
But how great was it to see like Picard and Kirk fighting side by side? I don't care how cheesy the movie was. I love seeing those guys.
that cemented the thing that French pansy needs help. They were like, who's better, Picard or Kirk? I'm like, I think we answered it. He can't fight Malcolm McDowell, who's the same geriatric age as him. You had to go get Kirk, who had earned his retirement, and you brought him there, and he had to do all the hard work.
I
He
love
did
this
everything.
commentary.
He did all the work.
It's animated, doesn't it?
He had to stop Malcolm
He's
McDowell. He
so
had to turn on the thing
passionate.
so you could see all the Picard has to do. I pushed the button to save the star. I'm like, yeah, yes, you did,
Yeah.
Jean-Luc.
Oh my gosh. that's
So-
hysterical.
So once these guys started kind of aging out of these roles, it was time for a modern reboot. So Star Trek comes out in 2009 with Chris Pine as Captain Kirk, who I thought did an
So
admirable
awesome.
job of like
Yeah.
imitating Shatner to a certain extent, having his cockiness. And then followed up with Star Trek Into Darkness, 2013, where the big twist, the big reveal is that Benedict Cumberbatch was Khan. I was like, I don't know. Then they followed that up with Star Trek Beyond in 2016, and right now it's in hiatus, I believe. But the entire franchise has earned over $10 billion, and might be surprised to know that the highest grossing entry of the entire Star Trek franchise is Into the Darkness, Star Trek Into Darkness. So that grossed $467 million. If you would have quizzed me on that, that is not the one I would have come up with, but that was a big hit. So yeah, 13 movies make up the Star Trek franchise. I think all of them have been entertaining to some extent, and we could thank Star Wars for giving Paramount a kick in the butt to put Star Trek on the big screen.
Right.
So yeah. So
I love how Star Trek and Star Wars have kind of played off each other. I think that Star Trek had to have something to do with Star Wars, or at least for them to think about, like, what are we going to do here? How are we going to differentiate ourselves from Star Trek? When Star Trek was kind of a lost franchise at the point when Star Wars, when Star Trek was a lost franchise, Star Wars kind of picked it back up again and got us all excited about, Westerns in outer space. And then that came back, I think. So it's great to see two different takes on that playing back and forth. And I think that's I think it's cool.
And J.J. Abrams brought them both back for the 21st century.
That's right.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. And then established kind of a cleansing of the timeline by doing that weird time thing where it's like, okay, anything that happens from here on out has nothing to do with what we've seen happen on television.
I am reticent to give J.J. Abrams credit, but that was actually kind of a very simple, like kung fu. Like, oh, well, wow, that's actually kind of brilliant. Yeah, now you can rewrite whatever you want.
Exactly.
Oh, that's actually well done, JJ.
Yeah, and I'm kind of disappointed that they haven't been giving us movies lately. It's been lens flare. That's right.
I think I don't know if they have like a screenplay, but they've been talking about doing that fourth one and bringing back Chris Pine and those guys.
I think Chris Pine did a great job. I really liked it.
Those are the only three
Zachary Quinto and
Star Trek of anything I've seen were the two J.J. Abrams and then Beyond. That Justin Lin directed. I saw all three of them in the theater, and I liked them.
Yeah, I did too.
But like I said, I didn't know. I just had never watched anything.
Well,
so I went into it with no expectations.
That's actually good.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I love the moment. This is when I kind of loved Chris Pine as Captain Kirk. Because I think it was in the first one when they're doing that test, the Kobayashi
Maru.
Yeah, and he's just so arrogant and just one leg draped over the arm of the chair, and they're like, it's impossible to beat, and he beats it, and it's like, how did you beat it? I cheated. I'm like, he is just such a perfect Kirk. He was awesome. So yeah, I love the arrogance that he brought to the role, and I hope it continues.
I think because Paramount at that point, when streaming came out, they needed, instead of just investing 3 years into a movie, let's start getting content out there. You had Star Trek Discovery, Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks. They got Starfleet Academy, that the animated one that's coming out. Starfleet Academy is the one that's coming out soon. So I think maybe now they'll start going back into movies a little bit more.
Yeah. Now I need to brag to our audience that when Starfleet Academy premieres, we have a little point of pride here at ONTV that one of our former producers / actors, when she was 12 years old, Bella Shepard, is going to be one of the main characters in Starfleet Academy, and I'm so proud of her. So exciting! I can't wait to see the series.
See, look at your influence.
And it's already been picked up for a second season. We haven't even seen one episode yet. It's already picked up for a second season.
Wow.
So the folks at Paramount are liking what they're seeing.
When is it coming out again?
I don't know if there's a launch date yet. I don't know.
I'm not trying to stir the hornets nest here, but I'm glad they had the funds for it because that's why they canceled Colbert.
Oh, really? Let's not get into that.
With that merger, I guess we got the money to make
That's right. At least we locked that in. Thank you.
Oh, boy.
Right.
Don't cancel your subscriptions, please.
All right, we're going to kind of go rapid-fire franchises here with about 27 minutes we have left. Alien, 9 movies total, 1 through 4. Then Prometheus, Covenant, and Romulus in 2024. There have been 2 Alien versus Predator movies. Now, in my opinion, the first Alien was one of the greatest horror / sci-fi movies ever made. And then Cameron took the sequel, Aliens, and turned it into a sci-fi war movie, which was just riveting, edge of your seat.
So amazing.
Introducing the alien queen and that rivalry
It's
between
so
Ripley
great.
and the
Get
queen.
away
It's
from
great.
her, you bitch. I
One of the
love
all-time
that.
great movie
It's
moments,
still one
in
of
my
the best
opinion.
lines that no one gives credit to is that my man, the Colonial Marine Frost, who when they die is like, you can't have any shit. Hey, what the hell you want us to use, man? Harsh language?
Or I love when they're like, we just got our asses kicked, and Ripley's trying to calm everybody down and says, this little girl survived these
Figured it out,
aliens,
yeah.
and Hudson goes, but why don't you put her in charge? Love
So-
Hudson.
We're all gonna get her. We're all gonna
Game
die. or
over,
something. You just-
man. Game
That's what he
over.
said.
And
Oh.
Michael Biehn had there's this scene where it's like when Bishop the character it says, I want you to take what do we look, this is great, and Sigourney was like, what, this is great, Bishop, what are we looking at right there? And you see this exhaust come out, and then you just see Michael Biehn goes, how long till it blows? He's like, as if we're not already screwed.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
this place is going to detonate. Okay, great.
Yeah, I loved Aliens, and then the third one comes out. I remember sitting in theater going, "What the hell is this?" It
It's
went
terrible.
in a different direction.
What are you guys talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
No, the nothing.
Uh-oh.
Never mind.
Your
Yeah, never
eternal
mind.
sunshine of the spotless mind.
Yeah,
effect is
I mean, you're
kicking
saying
in.
here there are 9 alien. I don't even know 2.
Well, I don't even know. Oh, yeah. You're right. And so, when Ridley Scott was like, okay, I want to create a prequel that sets up the events in Alien,
Yes.
I was concerned because I don't need everything over-explained. We talked about this on the podcast before. I don't need to know where the aliens come from and where the face huggers come from and all that.
Metachlorine count.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
so
Oh, boy.
Prometheus starts to get into this engineering of these creatures and trying to explain what the space jockey was from the first movie, and then it didn't
the Geiger,
really answer a whole lot of questions. And one of my biggest pet peeves in Prometheus is they find that horseshoe-shaped ship crash landed on this rocky planet, and I'm like, oh, now this is getting interesting. That's the ship from the first movie, and Ridley Scott's like, no, it's not. It's a different planet, a different ship. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? You give us the same ship on a rocky
You
planet
know we're going to
and tell
see
us
it
it's a
as the
different
same
planet.
one. Exactly.
That really angered me, and
You have this multi-trillionaire who's trying to cheat death, and he takes the junior varsity science team with him.
This
because
is Guy Pearce you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
This
So-
was terrible.
and he takes the junior varsity team because, when I go onto a strange planet in a darkened cave and I see something that hisses at me like
It's
a
the
snake,
junior.
I go coochie coochie coo because when I see a cobra on Earth with the hood out, I go, it wants to play. No,
who's your boo boo?
yeah, this guy's like, oh, what's it doing? I'm like, and then it eats his arm. Like, yeah, you learned something, jackass.
Yeah, that's evolution
Yeah.
right
So-
there.
So those movies just over-explaining everything. And then Romulus, which came out in 2024, that was just a big nostalgia trip. They were trying to bring back things, the
I
face
liked
huggers
it, but
and-
only
oh.
because it seemed to go back to some of the original stuff. It was
Yeah.
fine. It wasn't bad in my opinion, but I agree with you. They went and ripped off a bunch of stuff from the original movies,
Yeah.
which was tough. One of the things I really liked is that in the first movie, you had a guy who was a cyborg and you didn't know it, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And in the second one, Ripley, isn't that her name?
Yeah,
Sigourney
Ripley.
Weaver? Ripley.
Yeah.
She comes. I mean, I didn't know why I didn't make the connection just then, but anyway, Ripley comes out and she's like, "No, I am not going anywhere with a." And they're like, "Why?" Like, because the first one
Tried to
we had
kill
a
me, yeah.
problem and all that. And you see that this one's actually really great, and it's Bishop. Is that his
Yeah,
name?
Bishop.
Bishop,
And
he
he's
saves
great.
the day.
And
yeah.
he's sitting there, and the bottom half of his torso is gone, and he's
Yeah.
like still trying to help and do this stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
he's vomiting like
it's
he's vomiting like
redeemed,
yogurt.
Yeah.
And then in the third movie, they pay homage to this guy who gets the update. And I actually like that. I thought that was good. I think they could have gone in some different directions with it. I think it was a little on the inconsistent side, and he becomes really powerful and stuff. But he's such a beta at the beginning, and then he's such an alpha at the end. In my opinion, he's too much of a beta at the beginning. It almost gives it away. Like, why are we spending our time with this guy who's got emotions and feelings? I mean, it's like something's going to happen, and he's going to get some kind of. And of course, that it does happen. I kind of saw it a mile away. I do like how the androids are in many cases they're part of the experience. Like, it's an android now versus an alien. Have him go do it, or have him figure it out. And I think that's really cool. Anyway.
Yeah. So, and I don't even really want to get into Alien versus Predator. All I want to say about those movies is how do you fuck that up? Like, come on. You got the
F word.
aliens, you got the predators. Come on. You're going to make an entertaining movie, and they were both garbage. And I'm just angry that you can't. You're throwing a big matzo ball and you're whiffing on it. Like, come on. You're given everything you need to make an exciting movie, and you botch it. Let's move on.
Good for you.
Terminator. 6 movies, including the first one, Judgment Day, Rise of the Machines, which some people seem to knock, but I enjoyed the Terminatrix, the female Terminator in that movie. And then we get into Salvation, Genesis, Dark Fate in 2019. I don't even remember which one of those I saw, if I saw any of them. They just are forgettable.
They are forgettable.
Christian Bale was brought
Christian
in.
Bale,
They brought in a
yeah.
CGI young Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it just turned into a convoluted
But
mess.
the first two, the first one I saw,
Yeah.
life changing because it's this thing that starts, and once you fire up that engine of the Terminator saying, "I'm locked in and I don't stop. I never sleep."
Yeah.
And that's what what's the guy's name who is
Reese, Michael
Reese.
Bean. Michael Bean.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah,
actor.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And he
he's
goes, "You
described
don't
it.
understand. He cannot be
Reasoned
bargained with.
Yeah,
Reasoned
yeah.
with. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
cannot be." I loved that because I was sitting there as a kid, and when he said that, I mean, I was on the edge of my seat going, "Dear God, where are they going to sleep? What if they want to go poo? What if they, all these other things?" It didn't matter,
Exactly.
and that was just a slamming hard thing.
Yeah.
I love,
And
that.
I love Linda Hamilton's reaction because she still doesn't understand. It's like
She doesn't get it. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. You know what you're talking
Yeah.
about because even psychopaths need to sleep. We have serial killers in my. Here he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
this is not a serial killer. Like he's
Yeah,
trying to
this is a
say, like, this
machine,
is
yeah.
worse than anything.
And seeing her arc, she starts out as kind of this sweet,
Bimbo, yeah.
80s girl, and then she becomes this hardened badass by the end of the movie, which then sets up her character for
Part two.
the second one, which is
Yeah.
one of the greatest movies ever made.
Ever made.
And
So
doing the
good.
twist of putting the Terminator in the heroic role and introducing this liquid metal man. And we've talked about Terminator 2 on this podcast before, that it was one of the great major milestones, step forwards in filmmaking, where it introduced technology that made all things possible. And so, yeah, the
liquid guy,
first two
yeah.
are so great. And, we can't ignore the fact that it amazes me, like in the first Terminator, that you could take 3 words, and just because of the delivery and the situation and the humor behind it, when he says, I'll be back. How does that become one of the greatest lines in movie history? Because when he's going to come back, he's going to create anarchy, and he comes crashing through the front wall in a vehicle. 3 words
good.
became one of the greatest lines in the history of film.
That goes in one of those trivia games, like you're gonna need a bigger boat. I'll be back. Frankly,
Yeah.
my dear, I don't give a damn.
Yeah, yeah.
He's-
And I guess there was some discussion as to what that line should be, because some people argued that you're a machine, you're not going to use contractions, so you should say, "I will be back." And for some reason, that doesn't work. Like, "I'll be back" works for
but
some
it's
reason.
scarier because it's not your it's Star Trek Data where Captain, would you like me to blah blah blah? It's like,
Yeah.
no, he's got contractions. That means
Yeah.
he's assimilated. That's
Yes.
even far more
learning, he's
scarier.
evolving.
learning.
It's learn exactly.
Yeah.
There's a few things in there that I constantly come back to. One of them is where she says, "Don't you need to sleep?" He goes, "No," and she says, "Well, what is it?" He goes, "It's something to the effect of I've got a battery," and she says, "Well, when does the battery run out?" He goes, "Well," or he says, "On this battery, 120 years." It's like, whoa! It's such a great line.
Okay, so you can
And they
take first
show
shift.
him. They show him in the window, and it's dark. And then they show the sun come up, and it's like a fast forward thing, and he's still standing in the same place. I was pooping my Pampers right there. I was like, "This is crazy."
He doesn't get cramps. He doesn't have to like stretch. He's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
still
No.
standing there.
And yet he was sent to save them, and the liquid guy was going to kill us, like the T-1000. It's like, how do you go farther than the Terminator?
And
Well, I
Arnold
don't
said,
understand.
I now understand why you cry.
Yeah.
And I think we touched on this on the podcast in the past, but my jaw hung open when I was watching a movie called Ninochka with the actress. What's the actress's name?
let me look
I
at-
Want to Be Alone. Who's the one that said I want to be alone?
What's her name?
Why am I
Oh,
drawing
drawn
a
a-
blank?
No.
I
Her
Want to Be
last
Alone.
name is it Dietrich? Not Marlene.
It wasn't
Dietrich.
Marlene Dietrich, was it?
No. It's not Marlene
It was the
Dietrich.
other one.
It's,
No. Boy, why I can't recall names. I have such a
I'll
hard time.
find it right now.
But
Anyway,
anyways,
go on.
while you look, in the movie Ninochka, there's an American, or it's set in France. You know, the guy looks like an American, but he's trying to explain to Nanochka how politeness and courtesy works because she's from the Soviet Union. And as he's trying to explain these things to her, she's like, why? And then I'm like, why does this seem so familiar? And then you go to the Terminator 2. You just can't go around killing people. Why? You just can't. Why? And I'm like, oh my God, they're stealing or borrowing or paying homage to Nanochka in Terminator. I just thought that was incredible to see that connection. That was really cool. All right, let's. Gosh, we're running out of time. We're not going to do a part 3.
Oh,
we're not going to do a part 3.
No, we can't.
I
franchise.
have
Stop it,
I have
Joe.
6
We're
more
doing
franchises.
3.
Oh, my
We got
God.
3. We got to do a third
Well, I
one.
might knock a couple out here. Lord of the Rings. I don't know if I guess you can
Let's
consider
leave
that a
that for
franchise.
part 3.
Yeah,
I
that's-
love Lord of the Rings.
The
but it
Rocky
hasn't-
movies, 6 total Rocky movies plus 3 Creed movies. Love the first one. It obviously won an Oscar and made Sylvester Stallone a powerhouse in Hollywood. 2 I enjoyed, but one of my guilty pleasures is Rocky 3 with Mr. T. It's a simple
Such a
movie,
great movie.
where Rocky kind of gets soft, he gets his ass kicked,
Yeah.
and then he has to bulk up and toughen up to take on Mr. T, who had taken his title. I love Rocky 3. Some people love Rocky 4, where it's this Cold War.
Russian. I must
Yeah.
break you.
I must break you. Yeah.
Rocky
And he
Four-
kills
Rocky-
Apollo.
Oh, yeah, they kill
man.
Apollo, and then Rocky for every boxer, genuine boxer, hated that. It was like, you can't take shots like that to the head, man,
Yeah.
and be walking around. They were taking.
Oh, there's no such thing as defense in these
No.
movies. You just took a punch in the face and hope you outlasted the other guy.
So Sly took 4 straight shots from Dolph Lundgren, like boom, and you hear the sound effect. I'm like,
And he's like,
You'd
come
be
on.
dead. There's
Yeah.
the calcium in your bones isn't that strong. I'm sorry.
like, his brain's gonna leak out through his nose and ears. Like,
Yeah.
There's a really cool scene where it's a montage, and he's left to this barn, and there's just some rudimentary things, and I don't know what he's doing, but he's laying on this piece of wood, and this is him. I think this is really him, and he reaches behind, and he does this thing where he raises his entire body up based on the back of his neck or something. And it looks so badass. And it was him, because he had the receipts. He had the muscle to show it.
Yeah.
yeah, and they
Yeah,
had the
he-
song playing, and you're rooting for him training in the
totally
wilderness,
worried
and
for
then
him.
meanwhile the Soviet machine is being injected with steroids, running
Yeah.
in a circle.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
the training
is he punching
montage.
ice, or is that something else?
He's hitting a. Sly's punching. I think he's punching ice.
Yeah.
Who's
yeah.
punching ice? Or is that Karate Kid?
Well, in the
No, that might be.
in the first Rocky movie, he was punching the side of
Yeah.
beef, and then
That was cool too. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, it wasn't until recently, because I think I kind of gave up on Rocky after 4, and someone was like, have you never
Yeah.
seen Rocky Balboa? And I was like, no, I've never seen that. So I watched it a few years ago, and I'm like, this is actually a worthy entry in the series. Now, there was the one before that, which I
Yeah.
forget what that one was called, about there's a younger up-and-coming boxer or something. I dismissed that.
This is Rocky 5, and no,
Yeah,
it doesn't
Rocky
exist.
Balboa is actually pretty good.
That was
about,
Street
you know,
Fighter, wasn't it? Rocky
uh,
5, Street Fighter. The guy is
uh,
like, you don't know anything, old man. Sylvester Stallone's like, come and get it, or something like that. I can't remember how it was.
Well, I
but-
just remember Keith David, touch me and I'll sue. It's like he just kept delivering that line. I'm like, damn it, Keith.
And then after Rocky Balboa, they launched Apollo Creed's son in Creed, played by
Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan, and I really enjoyed the first one. I thought it was entertaining. I never saw the next 2. I wasn't compelled to see the next 2. Have you guys seen all 3 Creed movies?
No, I've not.
I just don't think we needed 2 more of those, but I enjoyed the first one.
After Rocky 4, I got off at that was my train stop. I got off. I'm like, it's-
Yeah.
Indiana Jones, 5 movies.
huh?
Real fast before we leave
Yeah.
Rocky, I really think that to create a franchise from something that was, and Alien did this, and there's a few other ones where you're starting with nothing, and in the case of Rocky, the first Rocky, and you know this 10 times better than I do, Joe. In fact, I bet you could give a lecture on this. I mean, Rocky literally ran around and took that, or Sylvester Stallone took that script everywhere, and nobody wanted to buy it, and so he said he wanted to do it. He had to fight for the one part of the scene that gives him some depth, and that hit the cutting room floor. They got it back. There's just a lot of really cool things, but
Yeah.
Rocky itself is kind of this formula and they continue to keep doing the formula over and over again, and I fall for it.
Yeah.
It's the same formula. He's going to
It
get his
works.
butt kicked. Something's going to happen. In one, Burgess Meredith dies. In the other one, Apollo dies. Or not Apollo. Is it Apollo
Yeah,
Creed that
Apollo
dies?
Creed dies.
And then there's,
beforehand.
and so it's kind of like, well, all right. I would have liked to have seen Rocky get his butt kicked and then come
Well,
back the next
well-
movie. And I would have liked to have had him, I don't know, but he's never not going to be the winner, and that's my problem.
I mean, he
with
did
it.
get his butt kicked in Rocky
won.
3, but then he comes back and redeems himself. But what's interesting about Rocky 1 is he doesn't win.
Yeah.
That's what I liked
it was
about
like
one.
A draw
It was a
that
draw,
he-
exactly.
I mean, Apollo retained the title, but
Yeah.
the movie was about going the distance, which makes that
And
one of
I
the
love
greatest
that.
sports movies of all time.
Thank
So.
you, and that was my point, and you got
Yeah.
it exactly. Thank you.
Indiana Jones, 5 movies. I think The Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of the greatest movies ever made.
Is there an
100%.
inflation?
It's
Is
my
there
top
an-
two,
three.
top 3. Yeah.
Is there an
It's in my top
inflation
3.
theme going on here? Where are these extra movies coming from? There were 3 movies.
Now,
No, there weren't. There were 2. There were not even 2.
In my opinion, Temple of Doom was a disappointment. It was
Disaster.
dark. It was gory. It
Where
was
was
loud.
Marion?
It was
Where was
annoying.
Marion?
And Lucas and Spielberg were going through divorces, which got reflected in the film, like ripping the heart out and all that crap. And so I was disenchanted after seeing Temple of Doom to the point where I didn't even bother to see The Last Crusade in theaters when it came out. I didn't see it until it was released on VHS. And when I sat there and watched it on VHS, I thought, this is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my life. So Last Crusade sort of redeemed Temple of Doom, and then we get into Crystal Skull, which I think is one of the worst movies ever made,
Agreed.
and Dial of Destiny, which is kind of forgettable. It took some really strange turns
it's
that involved time travel.
Come on.
There was-
and,
There was Crystal Skull said it was the worst movie. Then Dial Disney said, "Hold my beer."
yeah. So
The
yeah.
crystal one was hard to follow. It was
alien
all about aliens,
spaceship
and it was
and
like, okay. But I think the best part was surviving a nuclear blast
in a refrigerator.
in a refrigerator.
Yep.
That
I
got
just-
flung, and it got flung. It wasn't just sitting there. As the
Well, that's the thing. There, people like Neil deGrasse Tyson was like, okay, I'll allow that the refrigerator shielded him from the
Really?
blast, but the physics of that refrigerator getting tossed around, in any collision, there are 3 impacts. It's like, 2 cars hitting each other is one impact. Your body hitting
Hitting
the
the
steering wheel is
dashboard,
another impact, and your internal organs sloshing around inside of you is the 3rd impact. Indiana Jones is not going to walk out of that
He's a
refrigerator.
50-something-year-old man at that time too, because the character was born in the 1890s.
Yeah. So,
Oh,
in my
yeah.
opinion, one of the worst movies ever made. And
Correct.
to make it even worse is that the crystal skulls are a proven hoax. There's no history.
Oh, is that
behind it.
right? They have been proven?
They're all every crystal skull that has been found in a Aztec temple or whatever have all been proven to be hoaxes placed there by
isn't that
someone.
too
And the
bad?
thing
So
is,
that ruins the whole movie
it
too.
ended
so.
perfectly. They were riding off into the sunset. And look, you spent the money. The mouse spent the money to get the franchise. Reboot it then. It's fine. We all have our Indiana Jones. If you want to
Yeah.
have Indiana Jones for a new generation, recast it and have him go fight the Nazis, or do what you got to do. But to bringing Harrison back, I'm like, I don't want to see him get arthritis. I don't want to see.
No,
him
I
get-
don't want to see him either.
I don't
And,
wanna see him
and why
break
do
down.
we need to do it? He was
Yeah.
cool in Blade Runner. I appreciated that.
Right.
Yeah.
That worked. But you can't continue to bring him back in all these ones because he looked like in Crystal Skull or whatever it was called. There's a point where he drops his hat and he slowly picks it. He puts it on his head. I'm like, I didn't want to see that. That
No,
ruins.
I
He's
agree.
not a kid anymore.
Yeah, they got to pass the mantle, and I think in Crystal Skull they were trying to set up Shia LaBeouf as the
Yep.
heir apparent, and I'm like, no,
No.
and so they in the following film, the Dial of Destiny, they kind of killed him off camera. They're like, okay, we're not going to go in that direction, so that was interesting. So yeah, the only other 2 franchises I have, I'll throw them out quickly. If I were to ask you how many Halloween movies are there, what would you say, George?
Are there 10?
There's 13 Halloween movies.
Oh my
goodness.
gosh.
Rebooted in 2007 by Rob Zombie. There's only 2 that I like. Of course, the first one was
really awesome.
a cult classic. And then I actually liked H2O. which celebrated the 20th anniversary of Halloween by bringing back Jamie Lee Curtis, and I really enjoyed that. All the rest to me are forgettable.
He's not supernatural. This is America.
Yeah.
Nobody has a gun.
Yeah, right. And he gets shot at the end of the first one, but then he mysteriously walks
Okay, so
away.
that's the problem with the franchise. The first one, he's the boogeyman,
Yeah.
and you don't get to see his face. He puts on the William Shatner thing, and the guy who's the doctor, I can't. What you'd know this name.
Loomis, yeah, Loomis, the professor, the bald guy. Donald Pleasance is the.
Who's the guy who says who basically? Anyway, I love the background story that he escaped. That it was 20 years ago or whatever it was, and he's come back to his house. And they happen to be living there. That was wonderful because it wasn't supernatural, although I guess it could be because he disappeared after falling off the
balcony.
balcony. But after that, it becomes, wait, are you trying to compete with Freddy Krueger in terms of being
Supernatural,
immortal and
yeah.
supernatural?
Same thing with
Jason, too.
Jason
And
became
Jason-
sort of supernatural too,
And I
where he
hated that
still
because
alive underwater.
some horror movies, it's better to keep both feet in the real world and just tap into the supernatural world just a tiny bit. But the Halloween theme has just gotten to the point where it's so ridiculous, and it's been parodied, and I think it needs to be parodied and laughed at because it's a joke.
Yeah, I agree. The last franchise on my list is Transformers. I thought the first one was entertaining but flawed. There have been more bad Transformers movies than good Transformers movies. My
Agreed.
favorite was probably the one where Leonard Nimoy voices the one
Yeah, it's the third
Transformer,
one.
Dark of the Moon. I enjoyed that one, and I really did enjoy Bumblebee, which was the standalone film in 2018 with Haley Steinfeld, who was just great. She was really good in that. So that's my last franchise. We only have a few minutes left. Let's go around the table. Nick, what if throw something out we haven't touched on?
No, I'll never forgive Michael Bay for what he did to Transformers. I'll never forgive him for what he did. That rat. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, but
I walked out of one of the movies. I think it was the last night. I got up and walked out. It was that bad.
No, but when it comes to franchises, one that I thought was going to be a decent franchise, but it fell off after the first one. I'll give it 1.5. Was The Mummy with Brendan Fraser. That 1999
cool.
Brendan Fraser.
That was really cool.
I enjoyed it. That was like a pure entertainment popcorn muncher.
That gave Indiana Jones a run for his money. That was done in the same vein as the Indiana Jones
Because Brendan
movies.
Fraser played a great character. He wasn't trying to. He was like, "Look, lady, why'd you kiss me? I don't know. I was about to die. I thought it was a good thing to do at the time."
Yeah,
I
great
love this
lines.
guy. I was like,
And
I'm
she
rooting for
was
Rachel Weisz.
Rachel Weisz was a bobati. Oh my
fall in
gosh, she
love
was
with her.
so cute. There's a part where she has like this. She's all covered up, kind of in this, whatever.
She has the veil.
stuff, and she pulls off the veil, and I'm like,
And
Yeah.
Brendan Fraser does. That's the first time I think he really starts to notice. He's like, yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
and she's got
Yeah,
this
they're-
bumbling brother who's just a complete
Jonathan,
moron.
Yeah.
And he was so good too. I
Yeah.
loved it all. And
I
it
agree.
wasn't. Was it 3 where the CGI just turns into
no,
garbage?
There's
the
the
second one.
Rock,
It
the
was the second
Scorpion.
one.
Well, there was the
Scorpion
Scorpion King. Was that the second one?
Yeah, it's the second one.
It looked like it was
No,
cartoon.
well,
The Mummy
like
Returns
somebody
because-
had physically.
Yeah, so there's Mummy Returns, then the Scorpion King.
No,
thought,
the
but-
Scorpion King is in the Mummy
but
Returns.
he's introduced in
That's
that
the-
one.
that's
But then
what
he
we
got
started-
his own standalone.
Yeah,
thing,
we started
okay.
doing this two bad
Yeah,
guy
that
nonsense.
was awful. That was
It
terrible.
was terrible. Yeah.
All right. Andrew, what do you
I'm
got?
surprised we didn't talk about Back to the Future, did we?
Well, we had a rule that we
Holy crap.
established on the last episode that a franchise is more than 3 films.
More than 3?
Yeah, so avoid any trilogies. We're going 4
How
or
many
more.
mummies were there?
There was 4 movies.
Was
Good
there?
gracious.
Yeah, they did 4
Yeah.
movies, and I was like, oh my god, the third. I mean,
Yeah.
Mad Max?
Mad Max, okay. When you pick up Furiosa and all that, I thought those were okay. For me, the second one was the best, The Road Warrior.
Road Warrior was awesome.
The
but
only
I
one,
liked them all.
only one I haven't seen is Beyond Thunderdome.
Nope.
Predator. I didn't care that much for the 2018 one, but I thought
Yeah.
Predators was good.
with Adrian Brody.
Yeah.
Yes, I enjoyed that one.
I liked
It
is
was-
the 2018 one where they go back in time with the Native Americans. That's one of my.
That was
Prey.
Prey.
That's Prey.
That's
That
what
was
it's
a
I
called,
wonderful-
love that movie.
I was so
Yeah.
I was
skeptical, but
knocked
then
out.
I enjoyed it.
It was
I
a
thought it was so
refreshing
awesome.
take on that franchise, even though I have to question things like, the Predator seems to be more primitive in that movie, yet he's
Which
still
I thought was
flying
cool.
alien technology and all that stuff, which I thought was kind of odd. But so we squeezed in like 6 episodes into 2. That's our take on the greatest franchises of all time. And we'll have to come up with a new topic in 2 weeks. We'll discuss that off air. Thank you for listening. Thank you guys for
It was a
another
lot of
fun
fun. Thank
conversation.
you. Super
And
fun.
we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Good night, everybody.
Come to the movies, watch Charlie Chaplin, and put some sunshine into your day. Forget the hard times, come to the movies, and try to laugh your troubles away.